Imagine standing in a vast open field, the sky stretching endlessly above you, when beneath your feet the ground suddenly gives way not to an ordinary pit but to a perfectly smooth, gleaming tunnel that plunges straight down through the Earth's entire body. The walls of this tunnel are flawless, as if carved by some impossible machine, stretching unbroken from where you stand to the far side of the planet. At the very opposite end, far beyond your sight, it opens into the endless blue expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the waters shimmering in the sunlight thousands of kilometers away. You take a deep breath, feeling the pull of curiosity and a faint tremor of fear in your chest, your hands brushing over the helmet that will protect you on this descent into the unknown. You step forward, toes curling over the edge, and leap into the vacuum-filled shaft where no air will slow your fall. Instantly, the invisible hand of gravity seizes you, dragging you downward with ever-increasing force. Your body begins to accelerate, the speed building so fast it feels like the air should scream in your ears. But there is only silence, deep, absolute silence broken only by the pounding of your own heart. The walls rush past you in a dizzying blur of dark rock and mineral veins, each layer a chapter in Earth's history flashing by in seconds. As you descend deeper, the heat radiating from the surrounding stone becomes almost tangible, like a wave pressing in from all sides. Though your protective gear shields you for now, you pass through strata laid down over billions of years, some crumbling and ancient, others compressed into bands harder than steel. The deeper you go, the stranger the world becomes. The light from your headlamp glints off crystals embedded in the rock, some no bigger than grains of sand, others sharp as spears, their edges catching and scattering the light into tiny rainbows. Your speed is now so great that the layers no longer seem separate, they blend into streaks of shadow and glimmer, whipping past in an endless tunnel of motion. The pull of gravity grows stronger the closer you approach the planet's center, dragging you faster and faster, until your body feels nearly weightless from the strange balance between acceleration and the rush of the fall. The temperature here is already far beyond anything found on the surface, hundreds of degrees hotter than the hottest desert, yet you know it is still only a fraction of what lies ahead. Molten rock lurks far below, shifting and surging like an unseen ocean, and the pressure is climbing with every meter you pass, a crushing, invisible force that would flatten any unprotected machine in seconds. Yet here you are, slicing through the Earth's body, a human needle threading its way toward the heart of the planet, hurtling into depths no one has ever truly seen with their own eyes, where the very laws of survival are stretched to their limits, and the boundary between scientific fact and the imagination begins to blur. The walls around you grow darker as the faint glimmers of light from minerals give way to a deep, oppressive black, the kind of darkness that seems to press against your eyes even though they are open. Here the rock is older than any mountain on the surface, forged in the earliest days of the planet's formation when Earth was little more than a sphere of molten chaos, cooling slowly over unimaginable spans of time. You pass depths where no living thing from the surface could ever survive, except for the rare exceptions. Nature has hidden in its vaults like microscopic extremophiles, and the legendary devil worm, a tiny creature that can withstand pressures and temperatures fatal to anything else. At roughly 3 kilometers down, the air if it existed here would be thick with heat, and temperatures would rise at a rate that defies everyday experience. By the time you would be 4 kilometers deep, the stone would be radiating at 60 degrees Celsius, enough to begin melting plastic and warping metal. Your fall, however, is still unimpeded in the perfect vacuum, the pull of gravity continuing to feed your acceleration. As you imagine reaching nearly 9 kilometers beneath the surface, you realize you are now lower than the summit of the tallest mountain is high, but in the opposite direction, carving into the earth instead of climbing above it. And yet, even this astonishing depth is just a scratch in the crust when compared to the planet's true scale. The deepest humans have ever dug, in real history, is a little over 12 kilometers, and that took decades of effort, only to be stopped by unbearable heat, pressure, and shifting rock. Beneath that limit lies the mantle, a vast layer of semi-solid rock that behaves almost like a slow-moving fluid over geological time, where minerals are under such intense pressure that they deform rather than break. If you could see it as you fall, it would appear as endless plains and rivers of rock glowing with faint heat, the solid stone slowly creeping in currents like a frozen ocean locked in motion. At these depths, the temperature soars to hundreds of degrees Celsius, and the pressure becomes thousands of times greater than what your body experiences at sea level. Any attempt to drill here without advanced technology would end in instant failure. The tools would warp, melt, or shatter in moments. Still, the tunnel in this thought experiment is flawless, cutting downward without resistance, and your body is now moving so quickly that the distance between you and the planet's center is shrinking by dozens of kilometers every minute. The rock surrounding you holds elements and compounds unknown on the surface, forged in conditions so extreme that they have only been recreated in the most advanced laboratories. Here, gold and platinum veins might run in twisted patterns alongside deep seams of iron ore, while rare gems formed under incredible pressure sparkle faintly in the beam of your headlamp like stars against the void. Yet their beauty is meaningless in a place no human hand could ever truly touch without the protection of imagination. And far below, the next threshold awaits the outer edges of Earth, a molten realm, where solid stone gives way to rivers of liquid fire, and the journey transforms from a descent through rock to a plunge toward the glowing heart of the world. As you continue to fall, the rigid stone walls begin to shift in texture, no longer the unyielding fractured crust, but denser and more compact, the beginnings of the mantle's deepest regions, where the rock is compressed to the consistency of. Here, the heat is not just a sensation, it is an overwhelming presence, an invisible force that wraps around you like a living thing, radiating from every surface. Even in the imagined safety of a perfect suit, you can feel the oppressive weight of energy pressing inward. A constant reminder that this is a place where temperatures climb toward 1,000 degrees Celsius. In reality, metals like iron and silver would soften and run like liquid in such conditions, and even the strongest steels known to humanity would begin to surrender far above these depths. But in this hypothetical descent, the tunnel remains pristine, holding back the crushing walls and shielding you from the inferno. If you were drilling instead of falling, you would have to change your tools to alloys no one has yet invented, capable of resisting not only the heat but the relentless grinding force of rock pressed together by the entire weight of the earth above. At around 100 kilometers down, you enter a realm where even time feels altered, because the movement of the rock itself, though imperceptible to the human eye, is slowly flowing, reshaping continents over millions of years. Deeper still, at depths of 150 kilometers, the crushing pressure and searing heat transform pure carbon into diamonds of unfathomable size, their brilliance hidden forever from the surface world. These gems, trapped in their prison of stone, are forged by forces so extreme they would annihilate any living thing instantly, yet here they exist in silent perfection, unchanging for billions of years. Passing these layers, your mind drifts to the unimaginable forces at work, mountains forming and crumbling in slow motion, magma chambers swelling and emptying, the grinding collision of tectonic plates, all of it happening above this hidden world. Then, the environment shifts again, and the rock begins to give way to something more fluid, magma, molten and restless, glowing with an inner light that pulses like the heartbeat of the planet itself. It moves in great convective currents, hotter than any forge, carrying with it fragments of the crust that have sunk from above and minerals that have never seen the surface. In reality, a human descending here would be destroyed in moments. The heat alone, reaching well beyond 1,000 degrees, would strip away any protection, and the molten rock would consume you instantly. But in this perfect, imaginary tunnel, you simply pass through, the molten rivers flowing harmlessly around your sealed path, their glow washing the walls with an eerie red-gold light. You are now entering the very edge of Earth's outer core, the great boundary where the world's solid body yields to a vast ocean of molten metal that churns and swirls beneath every continent and ocean, generating the invisible shield of magnetism that protects all life above from the fury of the sun. The rock vanishes entirely, replaced by an endless expanse of molten iron and nickel, a metallic ocean so vast that it stretches for thousands of kilometers in every direction, shifting and boiling with unimaginable power. It is not the slow, glowing ooze of lava on the surface, it is a dense, seething liquid, heavy as stone yet flowing like water under the colossal pressures of the deep earth. The temperature here soars to between 5,000 and 6,000 degrees Celsius, rivaling the surface of the sun itself, and the pressure is 4 million times greater than the air pressing on you at sea level. In reality, no substance humanity has ever created could survive here. Even the strongest alloys would vaporize or deform instantly, and the electronics needed to measure this realm would be destroyed before they could transmit a single signal. Yet in this imagined tunnel, the impossible is held at bay. The molten metal churns in giant convection currents, rising and falling like slow-motion tides driven by the planet's own heat, created during its formation and sustained by the radioactive decay of elements deep within. These movements are not random, they generate the Earth's magnetic field, an invisible barrier that stretches far into space, deflecting lethal solar radiation and shaping the auroras that dance in polar skies. Without this shield, the solar wind would strip away our atmosphere in a matter of millions of years, leaving the Earth barren like Mars. As you fall through this region, you can almost feel the magnetic energy humming through the walls, an unseen force that holds the delicate balance of life above. The scale of this ocean is beyond human comprehension. It is a layer so deep that even light seems meaningless here, the molten waves swallowing it and glowing with their own fierce radiance. In truth, exploring this place would require technology far beyond anything we possess. Machines able to withstand temperatures hotter than forges and pressures greater than those at the bottom of the deepest ocean trenches, operating for years without failure. The very idea is so far beyond our reach that this descent remains purely theoretical, yet every meter brings you closer to the ultimate frontier. The solid inner core, a sphere of pure iron, frozen, solid, not because it is cold, but because the pressure is so immense that atoms are locked together despite the heat. You approach this boundary like a diver nearing the floor of the deepest sea, the molten metal giving way at last to a blinding reflection of solid iron, smooth and unyielding, the very heart of the Earth, where gravity pulls equally in all directions, and the crushing force around you is so great it might as well be infinity. You pass into the inner core, and the transition feels like stepping from a raging furnace into a silent, unshakable cathedral of metal. Here the iron is solid, not because the temperature is low, still hovers near the heat of the sun's surface, but because the pressure is so overpowering that atoms have no room to move, locked together in a crystalline arrangement, stronger than any material on the surface. This sphere stretches for more than 2,400 kilometers in diameter, and though it is composed primarily of iron, traces of nickel and lighter elements are woven through its structure like invisible threads. The airless stillness here is profound. No wind, no flow, no movement, only the slow, geological shifting of solid metal over millions of years, so gradual that it is imperceptible to any living sense. Gravity behaves strangely at this depth. Near the very center, the pull in all directions nearly cancels itself out, leaving you in a state of almost perfect weightlessness, suspended in the deepest and most inaccessible place on Earth. If you could pause here and look outward in all directions, the entire mass of the planet would encase you, billions of tons of stone and molten metal pressing inward, yet held at bay by the hypothetical perfection of your tunnel. Beyond this midpoint, the journey reverses not in the sense of turning around, but in the physics of motion. The same gravitational pull that dragged you toward the center now works against your momentum, slowing you as you ascend toward the opposite side of the world. Your speed, once blisteringly fast, begins to bleed away, and the layers you passed in a blur before now return in reverse order. The blinding iron of the inner core gives way once more to the roiling metallic seas of the outer core, the swirling molten iron and nickel surrounding you in their eternal dance. Above that, the rivers of magma return, flowing sluggishly in convective loops, pushing and pulling at the rocky mantle above. Slowly, the solid stone replaces the molten glow, and diamonds hidden for eons gleam again in the beam of your light as you pass. Higher still, the mantle thins, the rock becomes cooler, and the crust returns, with its ancient layers of mineral and fossilized history. Finally, the tunnel ends, and you emerge into the open air of a completely different place on Earth than where you began. The entire trip from one side of the planet to the other would have taken about 84 minutes in this perfect imaginary scenario. 42 minutes to the center, and 42 minutes out again. But in reality, such a tunnel could never exist with today's technology. The heat, pressure, unstable geology, and need for a perfect vacuum make it impossible for now. And yet, the thought experiment stands as a reminder of how extraordinary our planet truly is, a layered, living world whose deepest secrets remain untouched, waiting for a future where impossible dreams might just become real.